All right, let's go to the chat. Jeff Stone said, "Remember the name Julian Fleming." Does anybody? Does that ring a bell to anyone? I'm going to go look it up on our board and see if we've got him. We may need to add him.
I got no idea who that is.
I've got Julian Fleming pulled up.
Do you?
I'm not sure what the measurables look good. He's 6'2", 208.
Okay.
He's damn near 25, so that's not a good number. Graded out at a 54.9. I don't know if that's a good number.
Is he from Penn State, Tim?
Yeah, Penn State.
Wow.
He's over 300 on my list.
It's a random one, right?
Yeah,
he's got an interesting look. Have you seen a picture of him, Tim?
No, I have not.
Jacob, don't you be in here shaming people. Now I got to.
I'm not. I'm just saying he's.
I'm gonna sit on my high horse and Google
it. The draft buzz. If you look up on Draft Buzz, they chose. Let's just say he's got the Isaiah McDuffie thing going on already, and I think you should just start shaving.
In the world? Yeah,
shave the head.
Shave the head.
Shave the head.
You've got a head. You can shave it. He's not a bad looking dude. Like, why are you hanging on, bro? Get rid of the cul-de-sac. You don't need that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I ever lose my hair, I'm screwed. I'm just telling you right now. I'm going to look like the hunchback from Notre Dame, boys, if I lose my hair and have to shave my head. It's going to be ugly. So, yeah, we've got him in the 489 spot, Jeff.
It's because of the hair.
PFF, he was 409th at his position. Then he dropped to 676, and then he dropped all the way to 933. PFF Big Board had him at 245, and the Consensus Big Board had him at 637. We don't have much else on him, but I mean, maybe undrafted. But hey, watch this. Watch this dude get drafted in the fifth or sixth round and just be an absolute dog. That would be hilarious. So, what are y'all laughing about, Tim? What's your problem?
I'm just looking at the. I'm trying not to laugh because I'm looking at the 2024 stats, and his season stats almost look like a game line stat. 176 yards and a tutter. I mean, that sounds like an afternoon. Not 16 games.
I got you.
22 targets. I don't know.
Jeff said, time stamp it, boys. When he's a stud, I'm going to dunk on you, boys. So there you go.
Yeah, what do you mean his numbers are crazy? Like, what numbers?
Huh?
For Jeff, he said his numbers were crazy. I'm interested as to what.
Maybe he's seen his bank account. I have no idea, man. Let's see here. Let's do this. Somebody asked this question. Read this question for me, and I'm going to try to sort by wide receiver and try to give an answer. Go ahead, Jake.
Who's a deeper wide receiver that you like, fourth round or higher? I know personally. This is a great topic here. I mean, there's a bunch of them. I think Pat Bryant is one of my favorite. Probably say like a Torrey Horton if that pops up there. Even guy, I don't know where Besh falls into this or anything like that, but there's even like Chimere Deek. I don't know how to say that guy's name. Elijah Badger, another one that I feel like people are overlooking.
I'll take your Elijah Badger and raise you a Nick Nash out of San Jose State.
Nick Nash.
Let's just talk about who the Packers have met with. Jalen Noel is one. I don't know how far he'll fall. I don't know if he's like a fourth round or higher, but that's got the cheese emoji. All right. So he's a little later on the board. Isaiah Bond, the Packers met with as well. We talked a little bit about Pat Bryant from time to time too, right? Like he had a pretty good 2024 according to PFF, if I remember correctly. So maybe a couple of those names, like I said, in terms of the Packers, looking at guys that might go a little later. Jalen Noel is one. And
Isaiah Thornton Jr., remember him?
Yes, that's one that could potentially be around for a while. Remember Efton Chisholm? We've got him significantly lower on our board, but the Packers did show.
They met with him?
Yes. Well, yeah, they met with him. I think it was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Now, it's not a top 30 visit, but they met with him. And if you'll look here, too, if I remember correctly, actually, he did not get the bonus. I thought he balled out at the Shrine Bowl. But, Jacob, could you look up Efton Chisholm's PFF grade for me real quick?
They're insane.
I want to hear what he did last year and the year before. Really, all of them. I've got the rankings, 176, and then he jumped to 36th. And then according to my records, unless it's changed, and PFF's numbers are constantly changing for some reason, maybe because they're getting called out, I don't know. But in 2024, he was the top highest graded wide receiver in all of college football, was Efton Chisholm. So that might be the name to look for. I wonder where he's projected at. Let me look at that real quick. I'm going to go – you talk about him, Jake, if you got his PFF grades, or Tim, either one, don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, thing is he's just a guy that's a little bit outside of our thresholds. 5'11", 200 pounds. Played at Eastern Washington Eagles. You guys know how the Eastern Washington Eagles, everybody watches them every Sunday. But you look at this last year, 92.1, playing 12 games, played predominantly in the slot, but did play almost 100 snaps out wide, had 120 receptions off 146 targets, 1,300 plus yards, and 13 touchdowns. When you look at his game-by-game stats, the worst game he had all season was a 69.5. He lived in the light and dark green and in the blue, which is insane. He had 3 or 4 elite games, high 70s most of the other games. I mean, the guy's just a drop rate of 2.4%, receiving rate of 92.6, 3.5 yards per route run. I mean, almost every single metric, this guy just blazed it. And he did really well too. In 2023 was a 82.4, 2022, 74.3. I mean, Tim, you got anything else on him? He's just a very small school.
Yeah, no, I don't, other than that. I think, what do you think for him? Maybe like 4th round, 3rd round?
I mean, PFF has him at 228. I mean,
wow.
Here's what I did a deep search here, and this will be the last one we cover. I got to step downstairs real quick, boys. Draft projections. Steelers Depot, March 22nd, 2025. All right. They're saying a day 3 pick. Last Word on Sports, February 18th, said 6th to 7th round. SI.com on February 22nd said day 3. NFL Mock Draft Database says round 6 or 7. SWX Local Sports on February 3rd said round 6 to 7. PFF had him a day 3 slot receiver. So the consensus pretty much says 6th to 7th round. You want an extra slot receiver, boys.
I'll tell you.
That might be the dude worth taking. That kind of feels like a Julian Edelman. I know Edelman played quarterback in college, but that kind of screams one of those late round gems for sure.
Hey, and real quick, Jeff Stone came in. I know I gave him a little heat, but he says Fleming 6'2", 205, but a 4.35 40 and a 43.5-inch vertical. Now, if that is true,
43.5.
Well, there's the numbers we're talking about.
That's the numbers. All right.
Jeff Stone said, "Everybody sit down, please. Let me explain what I mean."
Exactly.
That's wild, man. That's wild.
All right, then I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah.
All right, boys.
I just want to sneak one more in there. Late round receiver guy, Ja'Cory Brooks, Louisville.
Yeah.
6'3", 195.
Wow, he did have a 43.5-inch vert and a 4.35 40. All right, you changed my mind. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, we got a super chat here. Mike Witt, thank you so much, buddy. He says, I want Royals or Higgins as far as receivers in the draft. Royals is going to be a star, in my opinion. There's multiple people have mentioned Jalen Royals. Do you guys want to hang out with the chat for a minute while I step downstairs? Is that cool, or do you want to go ahead and wrap up? I'm good either way. I got to tell Mandy bye. She's getting her head out.
I'm ready to go. What do you want to do, Jacob? Let's do it.
I'll let y'all have it. Y'all hang out with the chat for a minute. Boys, y'all chalk it up, and I'll be back in just a second.
Sweet. We can hit Mike's super chat here if you want.
Yeah, well, we just did basically, but I want to hit. He talks about Royals. What do you think about Royals? Because to him, he's somebody that's on that tweener list, right? Isn't he around 6? Isn't he about around the 6-footish or so?
Let's see if I can find Jalen Royals. I believe so. I think he's over 6 feet. Oh boy.
Another one that I've been listening to, or that I keep growing on, is the Isaac Tesla. It's not Tesla, it's Tesla. Didn't get a ton of playing time, but when he did in Arkansas this last year, he just looked impressive. 6'4", 217. Yeah. He looked fluid when he caught the ball. He kind of reminded me a lot of like a Jordy Nelson type. But yeah, they're listing Jalen Royals at 6 foot, 205, just turned 22. I mean, it's intriguing for sure. His last year at 2023, he was a 78.6, and he did crack over 1,000 yards and averaged over 15 yards, and he had 15 touchdowns that year. That's
injury though, right?
Yeah, it looks like he's been a little bit injury prone. Kind of in 2022, only played 7 games, came back and played all 13 in 2023, but then again last year in 2024, he was only playing 7 games again. That's a little bit concerning for sure, but I don't know. I'd be okay with that. I definitely think there's other guys that I think I'd rather have for sure.
But I put Royals kind of up near the top of that second tier list, right? You know, like when you've got your basket of your favorites, and then you're kind of going to the mid tier to the bottom tier. I'd put Royals kind of at the top of that middle tier. You know.
Yeah, and Coach Lynn says that he does hit the thresholds, just probably about barely, but yeah,
There was another one I wanted to ask you about. He's on my list here. Hold on, guys. I know this is expert podcasting right here.
I know.
We talked about. Go ahead.
No, your coach was really quick talking about Kyle Williams. I thought we talked about him earlier. He's a 6 foot, 186 guy, graded out decently, but not super exciting. What were you going to say? Sorry.
I wanted to talk about Rock Taylor. He's got Rock Taylor out of Memphis.
That'd be the best football name this year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Almost as good as Buckets Goldenberg. 74.4 grade last year. Just under 1,000-yard season. Let's see his measurables. Rock Taylor, 6'3", 215 pounds. So there's the threshold there for the size and the weight.
I like him.
The numbers look pretty good. 14 yards a reception. You know, like I said, almost had his second 1,000-yard season in a row. You know, he's not like a production monster or anything, but when you're talking about a guy that could be on the board, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 round, you know, that's a name I think people should kind of have on the radar. You got anything on him?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact too in 2023. I mean, he's been durable. It looks like 2022 he played 11 games. I would probably guess that's not anything other than the fact that maybe he wasn't in the rotation, younger guy, you know. Then he played 13 games, then he played 13 games, predominantly out wide. I mean, almost the bulk of it, 90% of his snaps are out wide, which is kind of cool. Big body, like you said, 6'3". The drop rate's only 5.6%, contested catch rate of 60. Color me intrigued.
I
got another one if you want to be intrigued.
Hey, before you move on from Rock Taylor, I've got size and everything. 6'1" and 7/8 is what he measured in at, 213 pounds. 40-yard dash was 4.52, 30.5-inch vert, 10'2" broad jump, arm length 32 1/4, 9-inch hands, untested wingspan, and it said his official RAS is an 8.55. Go ahead, sorry, Tim.
Nice. I was going to tell you my most absolute exciting mid to late round prospect is Ricky White out of UNLV, the Running Rebels. Pull up his numbers. Tell me you're not colored impressed with him as well. 80.8 grade, coming off his second 1,000-yard season. 11 tutters, 13.2 yards per reception. Measuring in at 6'1", 190, kind of in the range there. This is a guy that I like a lot later in the draft. I don't know if you guys got anything on Ricky White.
Yeah, what's even crazier is that his 2023 campaign was even better. He played 14 games, had a 90.5 grade. He played 100 snaps in the slot and 300 out wide, which is kind of cool. He had 1,487 yards, averaging 16.9 yards per reception, and had 8 tutters. That's a lot of production in 2 years right there, guys. That's pretty impressive. Receiving grade was an 82 flat, 2.93 yards per route run. 2 things that I don't like: he has a drop rate of 8.2%, which isn't terrible, but a little higher than I'd like. And then a contested catch rate of only 39.1%, which is a little below the 8 ball. But other than that, I mean, he seems like if you can scheme this guy open. Now here, let's look at this is the bottom line, is what they say about Mr. Ricky White. He said White enjoyed tons of production over the past 2 seasons as primarily an outside receiver. However, his smaller stature, short area separation ability, and after the catch playmaking could mean his talents are best suited for a depth rotational slot role in the NFL.
Yep. That's why I like him kind of, mid to late rounds. If the guy's on the board and we're looking for a receiver. Yeah. And he should probably have the V next to his name, but I think you're right, though. The drop rate is something you got to kind of pay attention to. We as fans are pretty hard on our receivers when they have a drop. So, if the guy's got issues coming out of college with it, I don't know, Yeah.
And late in the draft, you might be willing to fudge the threshold. Obviously, a lot more freedom there than in the first round or early in the draft. But I did a quick search here, and it says, White's 2023, 2024 production, 176 catches, 2,524 yards and 19 touchdowns in those 2 years. And special teams flair. He was the 2024 Mountain West Special Teams Player of the Year. Scream talent. But his combine numbers, especially the 4.6 140, clash with Gutekunst's athletic benchmarks. Watson and Reed, I think somebody earlier said Malik Heath ran a 4.640 though, so keep that in mind. But his combine numbers, blah, blah, blah. Watson and Reed, despite expectations, says he's a special teams ace with wide receiver 3 upside, but not Gutekunst's prototype. Doesn't mean they won't be interested. So special teams ace is interesting, right? Mountain West Special Team Player of the Year. So. And we got Ricky White in the 119 spot on our big board. The big thing that sticks out there in 2023, which I'm sure you covered, Tim. I mean, he had some production. There's no doubt about it, dude.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely higher on him than PFF. PFF's got him at 220. Yeah. So clearly we're seeing something here with him.
Yeah, I want to bounce back to this super chat that we just brushed over. I know I'd mentioned it briefly. I had to run downstairs. Jalen Royals, right? Is that who it was that they were talking about? I think his name's Jalen. Yeah, yep, Jalen Royals. To answer your question here, Mike, a little more thoroughly, we're showing that he meets the athletic threshold. That's before we've done the narrowed down one. So a lot of these guys are going to drop off. He may meet it though. We've got him in the 75 spot and pretty consistent with PFF. He was 69th at the position, then 65th the last 2 years. PFF Big Board had him at 72. Consensus Big Board had him at 70. 33rd team had him 83rd. Dane Brugler had him as high as 58 on his initial list. And it looks like as it sits right now, he was showing a 9+ RAS. So Jalen Royals out of Utah State, obviously Jordan Love's alma mater. That could be the one for sure. So that kind of fits that second to third round mold for the Packers. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He says Tankathon has us drafting Barron in the first. Looky there, boys. Nick Scorton in the second, and interior offensive lineman Charles Grant in the third. Don't know much about Scorton or Grant. So let's look at Nick Scorton. Y'all want to shift gears to edge here a little bit? Is that cool?
Yes.
All right. Don't sound so excited. Nick Scorton is in the 32 spot for us. And it looks like he meets the threshold. He was showing, although it was unfinished, a 9+ RAS. Nick Scorton's interesting, man. We got him a borderline first-round grade there, actually right at the 32 spot. So if we were to get Scorton in the second at 54, Tim, that's what we're talking about, this edge room, man. Like, there's talent all over the place in this draft.
I think fans would probably be happier with Scorton over Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, guarantee it. I guarantee that's a great point. Like, you could take Shamar Stewart, who we've got in the top 15, but there's questions, right? We talked about the lack of production and all that. You get Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M, and
Scorton's younger too, man.
Is he really?
Early 21. Yeah, he'll turn 21 his rookie year. 6'4", 285. I mean,
good one.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at Charles Grant real quick. We'll get ready to wrap up. Charles Grant, if we got him in the third round,
I like Charles Grant.
Yeah, I don't know who did that at Tankathon, but we got him in the 70 spot. And he's got an 8+ RAS, at least as it sit when we last checked. 8th at his position in 2024. What was his grade, Jacob? Do you have his grade by chance or no? If you don't, it's okay.
I could find it in 2 seconds here.
All right. He was 42nd at his position in 2023, but then the year before he was 32nd. So he has always finished in the top 50 at his position. All 3 years.
2024. This last year he played 767 snaps. He had a 91.2 grade. PFF has him listed as the second overall tackle out of 643. The year before was a 76.4. Year before that was a 78.7. He played almost over 700 snaps each of the 3 years he was at William & Mary, and he only let 3 sacks go, 3 hits, and only just over 22 hurries. Played predominantly, or 100% of his snaps are at left tackle. He is a pure left tackle.
Tim, what do you got on Charles Grant? How would you feel about that in the third round? And that seems like a steal there, being in the 70 spot for us.
I would agree with that, just based on our board. I like Grant. I mean, I don't have his numbers pulled up right now, but he's on my hot list for sure. I mean, going back to edge too, another name we didn't mention as far as a possible second rounder if he makes it is, Jack Sawyer, the Ohio State University.
I love it.
Him or Scorton. Those are two names right there for sure. But yeah, no, I like Charles Grant as an O-line pick in the third. Again, if he's on the board there.
Check out Charles. Let's bounce back now to Charles Grant here. Packers athletic blueprint for offensive linemen. I did offensive linemen because I'm so sick of people saying there's a threshold for tackle, there's a threshold for guard, but we draft tackles and throw them to guard. You know what I mean? Like, let's just put them all into one big bunch. And center is kind of the caveat, right? You can go a little smaller at center, although recently, obviously, Josh Myers was, 6'5". So the old days of the centers just being 5'11" to 6'1" are pretty much over, you know. Not that you won't have one come in at 6 foot or 6'1". I'm sure there's some good ones across the league, but the athletic blueprint for offensive linemen for Goody since 2018: 6'4", 300 pounds, 5'2", 40, 28-inch vert, 9 foot broad jump, and an RAS of over 8. All right. Here is what Grant's combine performance was: 6'5", checks the box; 303, checks the box; 5'17" 40-yard dash, checks the box; 27.5-inch vertical, falls a half-inch short. The broad jump, he beats it by 2 inches. Arm length is, they don't have the arm length listed on the upper one, and that is important. So I need to get that added into the report here. Arm length is 34 3/8 inches. I'm not sure what the minimum is here. It doesn't mention. And then hand size, 10 inches. And then in terms of RAS, it looks like he stacks up currently as an 8+. So measuring up to everything, the verdict, it says Grant's size and speed align with Gutekunst's preferences, like Zach Tom's versatility or Jordan Morgan's frame, suggesting a day 2 or 3 fit, which is, they got him in round 3. So round 4 is some posts speculate. His subpar vertical and untested agility, key for zone blocking, are gaps, but his 34 3/8-inch arms and provisional RAS bolster his case. Until pro day completes his profile, Grant checks enough boxes to be a Packers target. So it looks like everything checks the box other than the explosion, which is coming from the vertical jump. So I'd be totally cool with these 3 picks. I don't know how y'all feel. I'd be all right with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And that would kind of fit that mold of what we talked about. Is, you know, Packers Twitter is going to burn to the ground if Goody doesn't take a wide receiver, right? So
that's how you know Goody did a good job in the draft.
Exactly.
Everyone's mad at him. Usually means I'm happy.
Exactly. Jacob, we've got a few minutes here. Do you want to go over that mock you sent me, and we'll kind of highlight them on there? Do you have that mock pulled up that you emailed over to me, Jacob, or no? Because I can't put it on the screen. There's a ton of ads on it, so I can't put it on the screen. I mean, there's videos playing and everything.
Yeah, I actually have it in front of me. Yeah, if you want me just to go through it quick.
Cool. You rattle them off. Let's start with round 1. We'll get Tim's take, and I will show you guys where we got them on my big board.
Yeah, and some of these are going to be pretty obvious, but I just liked a few of the kind of hidden gems that were in this one that we haven't talked about a lot. And we can blaze through this. I got to hop pretty quick, but we'll get through this quick here. So round 1, pick 23. They've got it as Derek Harmon, obviously the D lineman from Oregon. You may have heard of him. One of my
You may have heard that I would love that pick.
I think Tim would be on board with that.
Derek Harmon, 24 on our big board. Let's do it that way. You keep going.
Okay, cool. Number 2 pick, round 2, pick 54. This is one that we haven't talked about much, and I'm kind of surprised. JT Tuamalo, the edge out of Ohio State, the opposite of what Tim was just talking about with Mr. Jack Sawyer. He graded out not as well as Jack Sawyer, but really comparable. I believe he's 1 year younger, had a lot of production. He had 144 tackles, 45 tackles for loss, and 23.5 sacks in 4 seasons there.
We got him in the 45 spot on our big board. That one checks out nice.
Okay, cool. I really, really like him. I feel like we haven't talked about him enough. And then that leads me into the round 3, pick 87 pick, a guy that we just happened to highlight in this draft here, or I'm sorry, in this last episode, was Jalen Royals, wide receiver, Utah State. That says real quick that the Packers love a Senior Bowl standout, especially at wide receiver. And they looked at like what Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks were 2 recent examples of who did that and shined and then ended up in Green Bay. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what we mentioned earlier this episode. Obviously, where did you have him, Clay? Is that 75 or 70?
75. That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And then I think Coach Len in the chat talk about this pick. Round 4, pick 124 overall, Mr. Quincy Riley, cornerback from Louisville. And it says that Riley is an instinctive and competitive player with elite ball skills. He hauled in 8 interceptions, broke up 27 passes over 3 seasons at Louisville. He may not be the biggest or strongest, but Riley has some elite coverage skills that the Packers could use in their secondary.
Yeah, and Quincy Riley is in the 215 spot on our board, mainly because of the 2024 PFF grade. He was 634th at his position. He was 164th PFF big board, 139 consensus big board. However, Dane Brugler had him at 77. So Dane Brugler said that would be a steal there.
Sure. And then round 5, pick 159, a guy that we did highlight, not the biggest fan of. I think this may be even a little too early for this. They have Tim Smith, D tackle out of Alabama. It says that with TJ Slayton heading to the Bengals, the Packers are in need of a true run-stuffing defensive tackle to clog up the middle. Smith, being 6'4", 302, is physically imposing defensive tackle that would be perfect for that role. I don't know if I like. That's probably the first one I really don't like of this mock draft, which, by the way, this mock draft is from Brandon Carwile from the Packers Wire from 2 days ago, just so we give him a little shout out there.
Yeah. Tim Smith, we've got way down on the list. It looks like the consensus big board at 341 and his PFF grades 23 is what's hurting him.
Gotcha. The next pick I actually really like again, round 6, pick 198. They've got us selecting Teddy Buchanan, linebacker from California. It says the Packers will have an opening to fill out linebacker after losing veteran Eric Wilson back to the Vikings. God, that hurts. Buchanan is a gifted athlete with an elite 9.62 RAS, as well as a sure tackler who has posted a missed tackle rate of just 9.2% in 2024. At the very least, he'd be a very great candidate for special teams.
Yep. Less than 20 missed tackles his entire collegiate career.
Yeah.
Wow. We got him in the 209 spot for us. The main thing that hurting him, consensus big board at the end of the year, but he was showing a 5-point RAS of 9+. So
gotcha. And then another pick this is the one that it really made me kind of want to dive into this draft completely, was round 7, pick 237, wide receiver out of Tennessee. Now who you're thinking, a guy named Bru McCoy, BRUMCCOY. It says Green Bay likes the receivers to be tall, big, and fast. McCoy tips the scales at 6'2.5", 209 pounds, and has legit speed despite a hamstring injury that prevented him from running the 40 at the combine or his pro day. He didn't have a ton of production at Tennessee, but McCoy fits the mold for a prototypical Packers receiver, making him worth a third-day flyer.
Was the hammy the 2023 injury? Because I see he only played 5 games in 23.
I believe that was. I think he also transferred a couple times. Okay. Never really got a lot of time, but when he was on the field, apparently he looked like an athletic freak. I had him on Draft Buzz, but I clicked out that window, so this wouldn't be so glitchy. But
he's going to hit 25.
We're going to put that
24.7. He'll be 25 soon as a rookie.
Yeah, older.
We slapped the red box on him for 24 since he's dealing with a hammy, just something to monitor. Go ahead, Jake.
Yep. And then the last pick of this here draft here, they got round 7, pick 250, Dalton Cooper, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. Goes on to say Brian Gutekunst has taken at least one offensive lineman in 6 out of his 7 drafts as the general manager. So with the final pick, Cooper is an experienced option with 36 starts at left tackle. He has areas in his game that need some refining, but Cooper's upside is a future swing tackle that makes Green Bay a perfect landing spot as a franchise known for turning day 3 linemen into viable starters.
6'7", 315 pounds.
We got Dalton Cooper in a 249 spot, so it'd be right there in that range. If you're going to get him, you do it in the 7th round. So
okay,
I thought
that was a very realistic kind of draft.
I could see that happening. Absolutely, I'd be totally on board with those first 3 rounds. Holy cow! Really, the 4th round.
First 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, man. Get out of here, dude. I know you got stuff to do. Appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Jacob.
See you, Manscaped. Tim. Now we can talk about the important stuff that he's gone. Okay, finally he leaves. Any other players you want to look at here before we do get ready to wrap up? We hit his 7-round mock. obviously. We've got one more Patreon thing that we could kind of touch on if you wanted to. You call the shots here, man.
Yeah, let's do the Patreon.
All right, I'm going to take a second to pull it up here. Quarterbacks. I just wanted to hit on quarterbacks and kind of who may or may not meet the threshold for the Packers. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this since we're wrapping up. We could kind of touch on it briefly, and then we're going to get into some safety stuff a little later tonight, maybe even some linebacker talk as well. I just thought it was interesting. We could do the offensive line. We got that coming up too. We got to really do a little deep dive there also. So let me get this article ready to roll here. When we talk quarterbacks, no one wants to think about the Packers potentially drafting a quarterback. I have a hard time. Like, I want Malik Willis to be Jordan Love's backup for the rest of his career. The way he performed last year, I thought that proved to be a absolutely huge asset for the Packers. But the reality is he's only got 1 year left on his contract, and there's a good chance that the Packers wouldn't be willing to pay him what he's worth when he walks in free agency. And then maybe, obviously there's a chance they could trade him. It doesn't seem like there's a team that's got their eye on Malik Willis as it sits right now, but you never know. So here are the quarterbacks. And again, we did this with the initial filter very, very loosely. Hey, give us just a handful of guys, not necessarily guys at the top of the list, but guys that kind of pique our interest in terms of what the Packers like to draft, okay? And, again, this is one of the earlier articles we put together when we started dipping our toe into this. So just kind of talks about the Packers quarter athletic thresholds based on historical trends. Height, 6'3". Obviously Jordan Love was 6'4". Clifford was 6'2", but Pratt was 6'3", so somewhere around the 6'3" mark. Weight, 220 pounds. Love was at 219. Clifford at 224. Pratt was at 216, so those were kind of close enough. 40-yard dash needed to be a sub 4.9. 3-cone drill sub 7.2. Short shuttle sub 4.4. Bench press 10-plus reps. RAS of 8+. And, note arm talent and tape outweigh the pure numbers, but they rarely dip below these marks. Love's RAS was 8.43. Clifford's was 9.04, and Pratt's was 8.27. So let's just kind of talk about some of them that would potentially fit the bill here. Shedeur Sanders, slightly short, but probably take him. A little bit light in the weight at 215 pounds. 40-yard dash, he didn't run, blah, blah, blah. He's one that comes up, right? Cam Ward, slightly short on the height, but checks out on the weight for sure. Projected 40-yard dash was a 4.65. He's one that, you'd probably say he would check the bill. It'd be a close call anyway. Quinn Ewers, another one, 6'3", 210. Man, it's wild to watch how he's fallen, Tim, over the years. Quinn Ewers, that dude a couple years ago, it's like he's going to be the next franchise quarterback. And, man, he has sank out of sight. So that's one that barely fits the bill. Jackson Dart, you ever heard of him?
Here's the guy.
6'2", saying slightly short, but obviously it meets the threshold. 225 pounds. 40-yard dash they had at 4.67. I don't know if that's right. I want to say somebody clocked him at a 4.5 40 at maybe a pro day or something. So we'll get those refined. And again, some of this is just rumor on the earlier way that we did the articles. Jalen Milroe, you see they got his 40-yard dash at 4.56. We know
here's the guy.
So since then, obviously things have changed. Curtis Rorick, Will Howard from Ohio State. So it talks about the quarterbacks that kind of meet the threshold here. Here are the ones that come to mind in terms of kind of on the cusp of being one of those stellar dudes, right? Quinn Ewers out of Texas, Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, Curtis Rorick out of Indiana, and Will Howard was one that I think was actually the best fit. It says the Packers' top fits are Will Howard and Curtis Rorick. Now, Keep in mind, both of those guys are later round picks, and that's why I wanted to highlight this. You think that how would you feel if the Packers drafted Will Howard, national champion, right? Showed grit all year last year. I think he's top of the line when it comes to, just the quality human being that he is. One of those dudes that you could tell he's a leader. Now, he had a bad throwing session at the combine, obviously, so that's going to come into play. But how would you feel about Will Howard being drafted in Green Bay, man? Like 5th round pick or something if you were to last.
I wouldn't feel bad at all.
That's
Not
me.
at all. Not at all. I'm a little surprised looking at this list that Tyler Shuck isn't on the
right with
on
6'5", and again
25. Yeah.
And again, it wasn't like a completed profile. It wasn't like give me all the quarterbacks listed.
True.
It was just kind of.
Wait, I figured out why Tyler's not on the list. He's going to be 26 his rookie year.
Is he really?
He's 25 and a half.
What's crazy is think of what happened with Bo Nix last year. Because, guys, the hype is ramping up for Tyler Shough to potentially go in the first round. Greg Cosell said he's got him as quarterback too. He's actually got Tyler Shough over Shedeur Sanders, which is wild to think about, right? He said that when they put that podcast out, multiple guys across the NFL reached out to him. He said, I have multiple GMs and people in front office of scouting departments reach out to me and go, yeah, you nailed that one. When you stand next to him and watch him throw, big time arm, this dude's a pro quarterback. So when you look at our big board, however, here's the order in which we've got quarterbacks ranked on our board. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Tyler Huff from Jacksonville State, Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, then Tyler Shough.
Wow.
All right. And then I'm thinking that Emilio put that university cap, what would you call that? What do you call that? I didn't go to college. What do you call that hat that they wear at graduation?
You're asking me? I didn't go to college either, Clayton.
Funny how that works, right? So anyway, I think that might have something to do with IQ, maybe multiple degrees or something. Yeah. Curtis Rorick, quarterback out of Indiana, is next. Then Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame. Then Will Howard. So we've got Will Howard significantly lower on our board. Then we got Garrett Green, Kyle McCord, Max Brosmer. Bryson Daly's still on the list. We need to take him out of Army there. He obviously is not going to be in the draft, it looks like. Brady Cook, Seth Hennigan, Graham Mertz, Will Rogers. These are just some of the later round guys here, right, that round it out.
Yep.
So for me, if you were to look at our list and go, of that list that we just identified, and I didn't mean to pull it off the screen on you, I just wanted to take a quick gander at that. Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Curtis Rorick, and Will Howard. The one that sticks out to me is Jalen Milroe, man.
Yeah.
Like, how high would you be willing to take Jalen Milroe to be your backup quarterback for the next 4 years? And if for some reason, God forbid, in 2 years you go, Jordan's not the dude to get us there, you might potentially have a stud sitting behind him in Jalen Milroe. You know what I mean? Like that's a real conversation. That conversation was being had for Aaron Rodgers when they drafted Brian Brom in the second round.
Yep.
You know? So what do you think, man?
Going into the draft, I'm with you. I'm like 5th, 6th, 7th round, grab a guy. That's great. I don't know about moving up or, sticking and picking in the 2nd or 3rd round and taking a quarterback. I think that would blow a lot of people's minds.
It would.
I'd feel really good about taking a quarterback later in the draft, especially if, we address some of those positions in need early on, and Goody hammers out those, rounds 1 through 4, and we're, nailing our picks, and then we've got a guy on the board in the 5th round. Yeah, go ahead. It might ruffle some feathers, but you have to think forward and you have to think long-term. And I agree with you 100% about Malik Willis. I'd love to handcuff that guy to the railing at Lambeau and just leave him here for his career. But
he's awesome, man.
Chances are that a guy like that is, possibly going to be traded for value or, end up somewhere else. I mean, I don't see him being here super long-term. You have to look at, your backups beyond that. I mean, let's be honest. Sean Clifford is a guy, we talk about guys old in their rookie years. I mean, Sean Clifford is older than Jordan Love, correct? I think Sean Clifford's like 28, 29, something like that.
I don't know if he's older than him, but I do remember the fact that Jordan Love sat in Green Bay for so long that when Sean Clifford was drafted, between college and pros, Sean Clifford had played more football than Jordan Love. That's what it was. That was a heck of a stat, man. Yeah. That was wild.
So, yeah, I mean, I look at, an age with a quarterback is a little different. It's a little bit trickier than some of the other position groups. I think you'd probably be willing to go with a slightly older, more seasoned quarterback. Mm-hmm. That's why Tyler Shough is like a big, it's a big question mark for me, because when I look at like where he could possibly go, I'm looking at the teams on the board that are looking for a quarterback now and a guy that is going to come in and start immediately. There's zero question, Tyler Shough is going to be 26 years old. It's like, if there's a guy that's got potential, you like him, and you're a team that needs a quarterback, that's a guy that's going to get drafted and see the field immediately. I don't see anyone drafting him and sticking him in a developmental stage, to kind of develop until, you know what I mean? You don't want your guy taking his first snaps in the NFL at 28 years old. So I don't think he would be a project guy. I think he would be someone, a team would, bring in and throw out there as a starter right away.
Kind of like Bo Nix, right?
Yep.
But if you were to try to combat that point there, Tim, if you're looking for a backup quarterback, someone who's got experience, kind of what you're looking for there too. Like if he were to fall, right? But I think early you're spot on. If someone's looking to draft him early, you're probably going to go the route of, hey, look, let's take him in the first or second round, and he's our starter, like Bo Nix. Because that was the knock on Bo Nix, is he'd been in college for so long, and it's just I'm always fascinated how we go from a 24-year-old's too old to then you draft a 22-year-old instead. Well, he needs time to develop. It's like, you know what I mean? Like I just don't put as much stock in it. But you're spot on. People across the NFL, man, they take it very serious in terms of age. So Clifford is 26 years old right now.
So he is a year older than Jordan, right? Jordan's
is
25.
He really? Is Jordan only 25?
I think Jordan's 25. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Somebody let us know Jordan's age in the chat real quick before we wrap up. I wanted to hit this real quick. I thought this was really neat. Where's it at? Here we go. No. We can hit.
Oh, yeah. No. Definitely a good answer. No to that question.
Oh, gotcha. Ben Holden said, should the Packers sign Rasul Douglas? Might be able to get him for a song and a dance.
Nah.
I think his best football is behind him, at least based off of what we've seen last year. The time to keep him would have been when we had him. He was good for another 2 years, right? And then now it kind of feels like, to me, his best football is behind him. I could be wrong. Now, if you bring him in for a veteran minimum and let him compete in the cornerback room, and you look up and go, I'll be damned, he connects, awesome. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But in terms of, he says song and a dance, I imagine that's what he's talking about. Now, if you're going to go out and give him $5 million or something and you guarantee him a spot on the roster, I don't know how I feel about that, not knowing if he could continue to play like he did when he was here. Number one Packer fan, with the introduction of NIL, I think we need to get used to seeing older players coming out of the draft. 110% true, Packer fan. That's going to continue to happen because these players can now make millions of dollars staying and playing college football. They're going to do it. And look, I don't blame them. No, you're the big man on campus. You're making good money, hanging out, still living the college life. I didn't go to college, but just about every person I know that went to college, they didn't want to leave college. And I always laughed at, because some folks, it seemed like that was the only goal, was the parents wanted to get them out of their house, and the kids wanted a reason to go to school an extra year or two because they didn't want to get out and get a job. So I was the opposite. I was like, when's this high school thing going to end so I can go make some damn money? That's what I need to do. So anyway, Tim, you got anything else, Bubba?
Yeah, I see SDN said Jordan is 26 as well in the chat here. So they are the same age. So it's like you were saying, obviously Clifford had a little more experience than Jordan.
There you go. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the morning show. Appreciate everybody hanging out, man. We had a huge crowd in here. This was a lot of fun. If you guys would hit that like, hit subscribe, scan the QR code in the upper right to join our Patreon community for $3 a month. You get access to everything there. It's a blast. We're going to be doing a draft contest where the person who gets their mock draft the closest to what the Packers do, we're going to be doing giveaways for that. We're going to be giving away more autographed memorabilia. We got rookie cards here that we're going to be giving away real soon. Actually, next Saturday is going to be another giveaway, and then we'll probably ramp it up. We'll probably do a giveaway every week until the draft. So if you're a member of one of those 3 tiers, even just the cheapest at $3, we'll put you on the wheel, spin it, and you could potentially win a prize there as well. It's just a lot of fun, another way to connect, and everything that we shared here in terms of the write-ups, the deep dives that we're doing using AI and other things for the draft, you can find it in that Patreon group as well. So, Tim, appreciate your time, buddy. We'll see you tonight.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Clay. See you later.
Right. Everybody have a great day. Take care.
There we go. Yeah.
Right.
Bye, guys.